Details tonight on a vulgar picture going viral. A group of high schoolers spelling out a racial slur. It happened during an event for seniors on the Escondido High School campus.
I want to apologize to all the people I did hurt with this whole scandal, because that's not who I am.
There's people who saw that happen and they probably feel exactly how you feel right now because they saw that word, you know? Nobody should have to feel like that. Nobody should have to feel pain or backed into a corner when they're just trying to go to school, you know? So, thank you.
It was like the whole senior class was there, and they were all like hyping it up, thinking it's gonna be so like cool, like funny, because it's all like the top kids, like the kids that someone,
kids.
And people that have like good scholarships and all this, and they thought it was funny, like this is like the good kids that are doing this. So they needed someone to do certain letters, so they grabbed people from the crowd, and then they all lined us up and like took the photo.
No one stopped them and said that this is a bad idea.
No, everybody was hyping it up like this is gonna be funny.
You know the meaning of the word,
right?
And I'm sure you understand how offensive it can be. It seems like today it's being mixed into music, it's being mixed into comedy shows, and they're trying to normalize the word, but it's not normal, it's not okay. A word like that offends a racial group of people. You know, it's not just up to maybe the few students, even if there's black students in the crowd that may be ignorant to the fact. This is a word that many people, it was the last word that they heard before they were lynched or hung from a tree. It's a word that was being used by their oppressors or slave masters as they were being beaten and abused and forced to do things. There's nothing funny about the word. It's strange that people today seem to use it as a means of comedy. There are people that hear that word and are extremely offended by it, just with the understanding of the racism and oppression and things that we've experienced in this country. And it's still alive today. You know, as I had shared with you when I was flying back from Arizona yesterday, and I got here at 11 o'clock, and because of the work that I do, I travel a lot, so I often get upgraded to first class. As I was exiting the plane last night, there was a African-American flight attendant, white pilot, white flight attendant. As I was coming off the plane, the white flight attendant, or both flight attendants, would tell everyone good night as they were coming off of the plane. But I noticed the black woman who was also sitting in first class, as she was exiting the plane, as she passed the white flight attendant, like she was saying goodnight to everyone, but then as soon as the black woman passed, she looked the other way so that she didn't have to say goodnight to her. I was maybe 3 people back and I observed that, and I said, I wonder if that was by accident or if she would do the same thing to me. And so there was a white man in a suit in front of me. He walks past, she joyfully looks up, tells him goodnight, and as soon as she said goodnight to him, I was coming up next, she looked down at the ground. There was nothing at the ground for her to look at. You know, and these are the sort of things that black people in this country have to deal with regularly, feeling like they're not wanted here in this country, feeling belittled or disrespected purely for the color of our skin. And so a word like that is just a reminder for people about some of the atrocities and things that black people have experienced in this country. Again, anything from slavery to Jim Crow to just the continual things that we're seeing in society today. Even when we're successful, we're still treated like that. Here I am, a black man sitting in first class, still can't even get the decency of a good night, but you're giving it to everyone else who's exiting the plane. But the 2 black people that were sitting in first class look the other way. And it's shameful that in 2018 that we're still dealing with that, but then at the same time, the fact that people still have to feel offended by words like that, and it's really unfortunate. And I hope that schools will do a better job at really informing young people on the history of that word, to know that it's not a joke. You know, it's not something that students in various parts of the country should continue to do these things. Every school year, we're seeing things like this. You're definitely not like this one-off incident that it has happened to. It's happening on campuses all over the country. So it's always like a slap in the face when those things are brought back up again, and it hurts. It really does. It hurts people to feel like, man, no matter what we do to try to get ahead and to try to be successful and to try to help and create change in this country, there's always going to be this reminder that groups of people don't want us here. And I don't get the vibe, I don't feel at all that you're racist. I feel that you fell into peer pressure. I know what it was like as a kid in high school when the cool kids are doing stuff. Sometimes being the cool kid is standing up for what's right and standing up for what you know. I'm not okay with this. And even if everyone laughs at you and calls you out and treats you a certain way, at the end of the day, now look what has happened out of this situation. Now it's become a viral news story. The possibility of suspension or expulsion, all of these things come into play. Maybe it affects long-term. You never know where these things get written down, and especially things that live on the internet. Sometimes they stay there. Just knowing that you're a part of that is probably always going to stick in the back of your head.
Regret.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, regretting that happened. And so I think that one of the ways that you move forward, because it has become such a huge thing, I think, is using it as an educational tool and opportunity. We should be using these opportunities to try to bring people together. We should be spelling words like unity. We should be spelling words like love, like inclusion, and trying to bring people together. But when you drop a word like that, it just divides and creates more hatred and fear and division. It's like it makes it hard for us to move past those sort of things when that happens. And I'm sure, I mean, in school, has it got to the point where you're receiving threats from people and things?
Yeah. And not even for my school. And it's like even grown-ups too.
Could you have ever imagined, even just up to starting this school year, that you would be a part of some viral news story? No. Right? And see, and I think that's what happens when young people sometimes don't realize the effects of these things. And the hate, it comes in so many ways. It could come in the words that we use, the way that we treat each other. And it's like when we can use opportunities to try to figure out how to bring people together, I think that we have to maximize those opportunities, especially right now today, knowing that there's so much hate and there's so much division out there. What do you feel are the next steps for you after now having this happen? I don't know how comfortable you even feel with going back to school. I personally, I would be intimidated. I would be scared to go back to that same school after something like that happens and people are making such threats. What do you feel are the next steps?
I am scared to go back to school, but I'm gonna try to like show people that's not who I really am, because that's for sure not who I want to be, or like labeled as that. I'm gonna go and like try to redeem my name back to like where it was, not as this thing. But I want to like show people that's not right. Like I've learned from my mistake into like being a better person and like being self-aware of other people's feelings.
Cool. In doing so, and I don't know if you have like a Black Student Union or club or things that you do on campus, I would think it would be a wise opportunity for you to maybe figure out some way to interact with them or communicate with them, and to even give an apology to them, and maybe they could spread that to other students on campus so that you don't feel like they're judging you in that way. I genuinely, I feel like even the fact that you reached out, I had an understanding that I don't think this is a racist kid. I think this is a kid that fell into peer pressure and realizes the mistake that they made. But I hope you understand that, you know, a word like that, even if it wasn't just towards Black people, imagine if the same thing was done towards gay or lesbian people on campus, how much that would or should hurt you, right? And hurt them as well, to know that you offended people like that, or a Muslim student on campus, or just anybody that has felt oppressed or felt like they're not wanted in this country. And there are a lot of people that feel like that, and so it's It's a slap in the face when people are spelling out words and laughing about it. That hurts, you know. I'm sure there's probably been a time in your life where you felt like you were being picked on or laughed at, right? How did that feel at that time?
Not good.
Right? It's awful. And so just imagine what that's like, not only for individuals, but for entire groups of people, an entire racial group of people. Just imagine that with spelling out a word, you can offend an entire racial group of people because you don't know what they go through. You know, as I shared that situation that happened with me coming off the plane, this is just last night. This isn't like, oh, this happened years ago. This was last night at 11 o'clock coming back to San Diego after I spoke to thousands of kids, probably over 5,000 kids. I did 6 schools in 2 days in Arizona about treating each other with respect and love and unity. Flying back home was when that happened on the plane. Couldn't even get the decency of a good night from someone as I'm flying in first class. Like, I'm up there, you would think you would at least give me that sort of respect, saying, oh, he's a successful black man. No, not even a good night. And so knowing that this still exists in this country today, so for me, when I see a word like that, it's such a huge slap in the face. And it's unfortunate, and I think you should use opportunities like that to lift up people from all different groups, all different backgrounds, and to say we're all in this together and create more opportunities for inclusion and opportunities to bring people together rather than having people feel like they're not wanted there. Because I'm sure that's how probably some kids who may not speak up about it are going to feel on campus, especially when it makes news headlines like that. Some young people are oblivious to it. I'm sure you can probably talk to a whole bunch of kids at that school that are like, oh, I don't think it's a big deal. Show them why it's a big deal. When you start to see some of those images in history books of people hanging from trees or people, just the unfair treatment that people receive, it should wake you up to that, you know? I know for me, when I was in school and I started learning about the Holocaust and what Jewish people experienced, it broke my heart to know that people were being treated like that. I'm not Jewish, you know, but that empathy that I felt for them, it became one of my favorite subjects in school because I was just so in awe that something like this can actually happen to people. When you can learn more about that history, you'll understand I don't want to hurt people who have especially already experienced that sort of treatment. And so I think creating a platform that helps educate people on that so that these sort of things don't continue to repeat. And I hope that even with a video like this, that high school kids will watch it and see the consequences of doing things like that they think are funny, that it hurts people. I hope that as soon as you get back to school that you hit the ground running with some ideas to try to create a more inclusive environment and bring people together, and show people that you know, you guys can grow from this as a school and you can learn from it as a school and try to get to the next level of bringing people together. I'm hoping that you grow up to be some awesome activist for civil rights, right? And like you get to a point and say, I experienced something, because sometimes that's what it takes. It takes a traumatic experience to create someone that becomes a champion for other people. Use this experience to help you care more for other people.